All right. All right. Time to admit it. Did you really think the Steelers were going to beat the Bills? No. Did
No,
you, LeeAnn? No.
no.
No, but I don't think anybody did.
I'll
I
never
am
admit it pregame because I feel like it's like bad luck to say that out loud, but I really didn't go into the game very optimistic at all.
Plus, I mean, the way the game started, it just decreased my feeling that they were gonna, like, any hope that I had was squashed, like,
Yeah,
early on,
same.
because they just couldn't get anything going.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they did not give us any optimism the way they started. My goodness, that fucking that kickoff return, you just
Yeah.
handed them points. And
Yeah.
and then you say, "Oh my God, the special teams! What's wrong with them?" Well, they kind of redeemed themselves, I guess.
It really looked like two
Yeah.
totally different games, between the first half and the second half of the game. And it made me laugh the other night. I heard that the Manning brothers, when they were doing the game the other night, said something about how halftime adjustments are a myth. They don't really happen. You know what I mean? Nobody has time to make big adjustments. And I was like, you didn't watch the Steelers game because something happened at halftime.
They had two plans. They had one
Yeah.
for, like, if the first half went well, and then another plan
Right.
for the first half didn't go well, and it didn't go well. So when they were in there doing whatever they do,
Yeah.
they were like, Plan B. Let's go to Plan B.
I think
Basically.
sometimes we come back and win games, and I don't think it's because we necessarily do anything different. Like the stars align, something goes wrong with the other team. Do you know what I mean? Or our defense does something that causes a turnover, and we get a little bit lucky. But this time, for me, it seemed like Allison said, like really, like they came back out with a different plan for the second half of the game. It worked much better. While O-line still struggled, they looked much better.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and you could tell that they were doing better at blocking for Najee too, because he was able to, he still didn't have a great game, but it was the first week. But you could see there were, he had more holes in the second half.
Yeah, there was definite progress.
Right.
I think what happened was in the first half, they're like, okay, here's the new Matt Canada offense. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do razzle dazzle, we're gonna move around everywhere, and oh, look at us, let's go. The only people confused was the Steelers themselves.
Yeah.
And I think in the second half, I think they, Ben or somebody said, how about we do things we're actually comfortable with?
Right.
And they let Ben just be, go from the shotgun, do what he's used to doing.
He was drawing plays up in the dirt.
That's right.
Old school style. But I guess you probably have to do some of that until this group becomes comfortable and cohesive.
Right.
I mean, they're so new to each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh gosh, like I thought the same thing Joe did. I was like, man, we all expected, because of all this, just this hype during the offseason about how the offense was going to look so different. I think a lot of us, including me, expected them to be completely different. Like we weren't even going to be able to recognize last year's Steelers, from this year's Steelers. And and really a lot of it was still sort of the short dinks and dunks. And, Ben wasn't throwing it more than, further than, 20 yards. And so that's discouraging. But at the same time, it's early, like you guys both said. It's super early. They have to have time to gel, and it's just week one is not the week to for everything just to magically be awesome.
Right.
See, I think week one, whether you win or lose, it's the Steelers could have easily lost the game. We expected them to lose the game. It's what you do afterwards. I think what you do in weeks 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 that really showed, like, okay, we're not what we thought we were. We need to make adjustments. We need to change things up.
You want to see that progression happening, that improvement happening, that learning off of our mistakes happening, kind of thing. Yeah.
And I think the offense has only one way to go but up. So that's awesome. But the defense is already there.
Yeah.
The defense is already established, and they won that game. My goodness.
They looked amazing. And I expected some issues on secondary, but I can't get over like how flexible those guys are moving in and out of positions and just being able to still go in and make big plays. And boy, TJ Watt sure earned his keep. And it was, they were great.
Yeah,
Smith
Cam
was great.
Cam Sutton made some amazing plays. And even Trey Norwood, the rookie, who's freaking, he was everywhere.
He played a lot.
Yeah. And he was allowing Fitzpatrick too, like because of his versatility and he was able to pick up things so quickly during the offseason that other players in the backfield are able to do more because of his quick talent.
Yeah. Really shows intelligence. Another player that I got more from that game than I expected to is Pat Freiermuth. I expected him to have more of a tight end learning curve. That's such a tough position to come out of college playing and then come to the pros and play. And I was shocked at how well he was out there blocking. It wasn't even about the yardage. It was all the other things about tight ends that's hard that he did like effortlessly in that game.
Yeah, he took somebody and like ran him into the bench.
Yes.
That was fantastic.
That was beautiful. Really was. The split between Freiermuth and Ebron was like 50-50 in snaps. Yeah. I think Freiermuth's going to got a lot more play time.
I do too.
My goodness.
And it's nice. I think that you can use them differently and it gives you some options and some versatility. And I like the ability to put in 2 tight ends if you want to, and I like the ability to have different guys. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's encouraging. But now we're on to the Raiders. I'm going to be there. I'm so excited.
Are you? Good for you.
I'm going to.
I wish I was. Yeah. I have FOMO so bad. I want to come so badly.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get there early. I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit crazy around Heinz Field,
Did you see the things going around today about how like the Raiders are having like a tailgate takeover and some kind of bar takeover and a whole bunch of different events scheduled? There was a thing circulating around Twitter today. I was like,
not in my house.
I can't see that. I can't see that taken off very well.
It's not how we fly in Pittsburgh. That's what we do to other cities. We take over their stadiums. We take over certain things. Yeah. We don't allow. We're not
allowed to take over for us.
Nobody's taking over anything.
I know. I asked somebody today, do you think somebody from Pittsburgh set him up? And was like, sure, come on. Sure, have a tailgate.
Raider Nation doesn't at all rival Steeler Nation in terms of traveling and traveling well, but they come pretty, they represent, when on the road. And I think
they're very loyal.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Plus, I still think that there's a lot of that hatred for each other, you know what I mean? Even though it's been decades since the Raiders were really since the Raiders and Steelers played each other more often, you know what I mean, than they do now. But it's still that rivalry. I think is still underlying a little bit.
It's not Raider Nation that travels well. It's the Raiders franchise that travels well. They travel. they go from city to city, year to year, wherever they're actually gonna have their home base.
I was thinking about what a strange phenomenon that is, and I can't imagine if Pittsburgh got up and left and the Steelers weren't in Pittsburgh anymore. I can't even begin to wrap my head around what that would be like.
Imagine they moved
I just can't imagine.
West Virginia or the middle of Ohio or upstate New York or something.
Right. I feel for fans that lose their team base like that. I don't know how you do that.
That's terrible. Yeah, I feel for them, and they do have a very dedicated,
very
fan
loyal
base,
following.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Did you see Derek Carr? They asked him something like, "Oh, what do you know about the Steelers and Raiders history?" He's like, "I know that ball hit the ground and that immaculate reception is illegal." So that's probably on a sign in their locker room or something like that.
Goes around like Jesse James caught that ball. It goes around the same way.
Yeah. Exactly. They're still mad about that. 50 years later, they're still.
Oh yeah.
There's people who still think it's anytime I post something about Ben Roethlisberger, I always have, because I'm from Cleveland, I always have an occasional Browns fan. Oh, but did he rape anybody today?
I know.
Like,
Tiresome.
really?
I'm tired.
Like, come on.
The Browns employ some pretty crappy people too.
They
That's
do.
true. Yeah.
Kareem
they
Hunt,
do.
thank you very much.
Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett. I mean, every team
Yeah.
has people that have
And I
done
always
bad
say
things.
to people that say that, like, I can only hold people accountable for the things that they've been convicted of, or do you know what I mean? Like in my mind, like I can only do that. And since the NFL doesn't even hold convicted felons accountable for what they do you know what I mean? How do you expect me to pass judgment on somebody based on hearsay? Because you wouldn't want me to do that to you at your job, as if you say like, oh, so and so, I heard he did this, and then your career is ruined. And so, I don't know. I hate that kind of gossip mongering, whether it's about Ben or somebody else. It's just
hypocritical. Every team has had players that have done stuff. So
everybody's had problems.
Just drop it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I really don't know what to expect with the Raiders. Allison, you had an article today in Heavy on Steelers about who is out for the Raiders.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. So they earlier this week they lost an offensive lineman, Denzel Good, starting right guard actually, to torn ACL. So, obviously, nobody likes to cheer injuries. I'm not cheering an injury, but playing a team that has some injuries, I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Gerald McCoy was another big name. In fact, today news just came out that he has a knee injury and he's going to miss the rest of the season as well. So they haven't really specified. It's probably, I'm sure he tore a MCL, ACL, something along those lines. They're just calling it a knee right now, but just the fact that he's going to be out for the season pretty much tells you that. But I mean, Gerald McCoy, he's an old man. He's 33. You know what I'm saying? He's 1 year older than freaking Cam Hayward, right?
But it's really sad though. Didn't he just come back from another injury?
He did, yeah. So he had a quad last year that he was out, and Jerry Jones did him wrong. Like they put him on IR and then freaking cut him because they're like, oh, you know what I mean? Like you're not coming back. So that was kind of trashy, but that's Jerry Jones for you, I guess. But so they're gonna be down, a few players, and I think that they have a couple other minor injuries that we're gonna have to watch out for. But when it comes to the Raiders, as it does with every team, I think the Steelers sort of, and I'm sure we've talked about this before on a previous podcast about how they look down. They any opponents that they feel like they can beat, sometimes they go in and they just get steamrolled because they have this mentality that they're just going to go out there and just beat them without having to try. And I think the Raiders are a very good example of that because of how horrible the Raiders have been in the past.
They play to like whatever that perceptual level is, and
right, yeah.
I think that's human nature. I don't think. I mean, that's Tom loses.
Right. No, that's true.
Human nature. Look. Every team does that.
I agree.
I think that kind of. Just thinking, even in the back of your mind, I think that means a lot. If you look at a team and consider them quote unquote easy, I think you're in a bad place because you're going to get beat. I guarantee you, the Steelers did not look at the Bills and say, "Oh, this is going to be easy." They looked at it and said, "This is going to be really hard. This is a challenge. Let's go beat them." Right. So, and
look at like the Washington football team last year. I mean, that was supposed to be like an easy, we got to that game, everybody was like, we got this one in the bag. And, and I mean, you know what I mean? But that's what happens. And then you get behind and you start making mental errors and then it's hard to catch up. They're all pros. Nobody's terrible. They're all professional athletes.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's what's scary. I mean, the Raiders haven't had a winning season since 2012. So that's what I mean. Like, sometimes that's going to get in the, that might get in the back of some players' heads. Like, oh, these guys suck. You know what I mean? Like, we're just going to go out there and just do whatever and see what happens. Obviously, that's not the case. But it just seems like, the Raiders are kind of that perfect trap for them to be over, for the Steelers to overlook the Raiders. And I think that would be a big mistake if they do that.
I agree.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm surprised they beat the Ravens. I think the Ravens have some problems. I'm not mad about it. Good. Have all the problems you want.
Villanueva looked like a turnstile on the field. I don't even know what he was doing. And I feel bad because I liked him when he played for the Steelers. I really did. You know what I mean? I liked him. And then I don't know. Does there come a time when, as an athlete, you have to say, like, this is my time to retire? Do you know what I mean? I'm not able to play to where I was before, and this is my time. Or do you let ego take over, and then you have situations like this happen? Because it'll be interesting to see how our O-line pairs up against Crosby.
That's the thing. So I think, if anything, it was more Max Crosby than it was Big Al playing horribly. Obviously he didn't play well, but Max Crosby is a freak of nature.
He's amazing.
You know what I mean? Like, he got AFC Defensive Player of the Week over freaking Cam Hayward.
Right.
So it's like, which I thought was total bullshit in the first place.
I did too.
But
then with a weak O-line like we have, it's not easy to pick apart places to exploit it when you're watching film and, when you're looking at last week's game. It's not easy to figure out ways to exploit it and have him be a real factor. Then he's going to get rushed again.
Right. Yeah. Chukes Okorafor is in trouble. He's in trouble.
But you know what?
Crosby is just gonna
manhandle him.
But Crosby's not going to sneak up on anybody. When he has a monster game like that, the next opponent says, you know what? Maybe we'll double team that guy. So you can prepare for that. Same thing with Waller. Not that. I mean, we all knew that Waller is a problem. He's one of the best tight ends in the game. If you could really call him a tight end, he's really a wide receiver. But I mean, he is. That's all we're talking about is how you going to stop Waller.
Right. Yeah. And the Ravens, actually, it's interesting because the Ravens let him go. The Ravens drafted him as a wide receiver.
Right.
He transitioned, I think, in his second year from wide receiver to tight end, and he's been basically a beast ever since the Ravens cut him. So
sometimes that motivates players. It happens. You get to a different team, a different system, a different coaching staff. Who knows what goes on behind the scenes, but that works for some players or motivates them, lights a fire under them. Yeah, he's been balling out since then.
I think a big part of whether a player is a success or not is the team and the coaching staff that he ends up on. And if you don't end up in the right situation, then hopefully you find that right situation and you could excel. I think I think it has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Well, Mike Hilton changed the subject, but Mike Hilton got burned for a touchdown. The Vikings, Adam Thielen, wide receiver.
Not surprised. He was good at blitzing. He was horrible in coverage. That's why everybody's like, "Oh, Mike Hilton's such a big loss." Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. He was good at some things and really bad at other things. So, not that big of a loss.
I always feel like you have to prioritize those players. You can't ever keep everybody. So how do you prioritize who you have? And to me, he just wasn't. I liked him, but he just wasn't a priority.
Right.
Not for the money.
If we kept Hilton, we wouldn't have been able to get Melvin Ingram or Trey Turner or
which had a great game.
Yeah. So
he did. Yeah. I mean, he was one of those guys who sort of was like, I want to prove to the Chargers and I want to prove to the league that I can still be a force, and he showed that on Sunday.
Yeah, he looked great.
My goodness. What a steal he's going to end up being. My goodness.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Just for the fact, even if he does nothing, just to keep Highsmith and TJ fresh so they could have some kind of rotation. That's huge. And the scary thing is this defense could actually get better. Eventually they're going to get to it. And Devin Bush and Schobert had a quiet game. But they're still figuring things out. They're learning to play together, and they're Schobert's still learning the defense. Bush is still coming back from an injury, so they're only going to get better.
Yeah, I mean, this is technically only Bush's second year, really. I mean,
right.
So.
Yeah.
But I was worried about that secondary, but that ability to rotate those players around and be able to use some of those other guys kept them so fresh through that first half of the game that they were still playing really strongly in the second half of the game, where sometimes we start to tire out and struggle a little bit. I thought they looked fresh and good.
Well, they kept pressure on Allen with not even blitzing.
Right.
With 3 guys,
Yeah,
they're
it
keeping
was
pressure
amazing.
on him. That's huge.
It's
Yeah.
huge.
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's that's
It's
why
nice to see us put that much pressure on somebody else instead of just being on the receiving end of it all the time.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
That's right. So
Uh-huh.
we'll see. I'm optimistic. I think the Steelers are going to win this. I think I think they're going to win. It's just because of that pressure thing. It's like, well, what if Carr does this, and what if Carr does that, and what if Waller does this? Like, I don't think he's going to have time to hit Waller because I think he's going to be running for his life.
Yeah.
I think too, it speaks a lot to the fact that it's a home game.
Mhm.
I would feel less confident about the Steelers winning if they had to go into Vegas, because it's their first home game in front of fans in a million years, it seems like. So and just the atmosphere is going to be electric, and you would hope that they'll use that, as a momentum builder
Yeah.
instead of a detractor, like, oh, I couldn't hear anything, or oh, blah blah
Right.
blah, so.
Hopefully
Well-
fans help a little bit. I know
Right.
people are really excited to be there.
I'll be screaming if I still have a voice at the end of the game, then I have failed
Right.
as a Steeler fan.
Only scream when they're on defense.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Only be quiet when Ben is
Right.
doing his thing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and besides, I mean, Heinz Field is a football stadium, and the Raiders stadium looks like a giant Roomba. So
This is true.
you know what? That's actually really useful, because when they pick up and go to another city, they could just Roomba the entire stadium and move to another state, another
Could just
area.
drive itself
You
to
are a
another city.
genius.
They're gonna be the Arizona Raiders next or something, or the Idaho Raiders or something.
The Idaho
Idaho
Raiders.
Raiders.
Idaho's due for a football team.
Sure. Throw potatoes at the team.
Right.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. This was so much fun.
Yes,
It is.
always.
All right,
guys.
awesome. Hey, I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Take
All
care.
right.
Okay.
Bye.